So, first question for you is, when was the first time that you remember that you heard metal music?
I think I was around 11-ish, 10, maybe 10. I was, well, even earlier. First, if you consider it metal, there was a rock opera called István a Király in Hungary. And I was lucky because of my parents go to one of their rehearsal, the final rehearsal, and they had like this metal part which I liked. I remember I kind of liked it. And then also I had my nephews close to the Austrian border, and we are talking about communist times. So when we visited them, we could listen to Austrian radio and they played some metal songs. And I remember it was kind of strange, but my nephews loved it, so I paid attention. And then he asked me to record an AC/DC record, and that I did in Hungary for him. And I hooked up on that, and then Judas Priest and Mayhem. But I listened music already before, but I was not crazy like that, you know, and then I got crazy.
So what was in metal music that sort of caught your attention, that you sort of got interested about the music?
Like I told you, it started with these three bands, but also I discovered like Purple, Sabbath, Motorhead. These were the first bands, and I started to look for more and more extreme music, so I explored punk, like Dead Kennedys, and also Exploited, and Sex Pistols, of course, UK Subs, and GBH, which I fucking love. And I loved all of them. And then came, I think first, like, I heard Running Wild, Destruction, Sodom, and Battery, and so on, Slayer. And then I was already 14, or something, 15, and then we started to play with Tormentor.
Next question was going to be that do you still remember the times that what got you into singing at first?
Yeah, it was, it's kind of interesting because, you know, I'm a single kid, so I didn't have brother and sister. And in the afternoons, I've been home after the school, before I went to train. I've been doing sport that time when I was a kid, like everyday training, like water polo. And in the afternoon, I was banging heavy metal. Like, even like, just talked about it. Like, even we lived on the 6th floor in a block of flats, and from the 4th floor, someone called the cops in the afternoon. So. Which was bullshit, actually. But still, to come back to the point, music was so intense for me, so ecstatic, that I started to headbang at home. And we had like, there was one furniture had this kind of like a window which was totally black, or like semi, you could see through. So it has a bit of reflection of my shape, actually. So I was standing in front of that, and I started to sing along with the bands. So I had this singing session as a kid at home, because I was lucky to be alone and I could do what the fuck I wanted. So, and I remember like, first I was so much obsessed by hi-fi. And luckily my father supported it, and it took some time because we are talking about communist era, you know, so it was big effort. So I really adore my dad for that, actually, who rest in peace. But anyway, that I had this Technics amp, and I had this Hitachi boombox and the Pioneer player, and I was listening by headphone, you know, they were watching TV. I pulled the fucking like this seat on the side of the whole room where they were watching, and I was just listening music like, And they were just, I don't know, I must look very strange. I don't know. They didn't say much about it. Only thing they said, as long as I'm good at school, we don't give a fuck.
So when you started singing, were you doing like some cover songs? Were there like some specific songs that you were sort of singing along to?
Yeah, I sing along with the bands I heard sometimes, you know. I love Bon Scott, I love Hartford first, and then probably they were, and of course, Bruce Dickinson, you know. They are the main heroes in that age, in the very beginning. But then, you know, I sang along with whatever, but I didn't know the lyrics because we never had that. I only had tapes. And we never could afford vinyls, or just very few I could, you know. So I was just improvising, sing along with the bands. I guess that helped. Like, thinking back now, or you mentioning it, I didn't think about it so much, but yeah. But I would not, you know, that singing was, but I remember once I was like doing this, and the door opened, my parents came in, so I was like, hello. You know. So, and it was a music like, turned on.
So when you started like doing the singing parts, were you first like sort of trying to copy Bruce Dickinson and Halford, or were you like immediately trying to develop like your own vocal style?
No, I was just like, when I started, like I said, I was probably 11 when I started this sing-along, I would say. I can't recall exactly, but that age, yeah, should be. Because I think back, I was 13 when I discovered the punk music, and I was already into metal for a while. And so I sang along with them, but then I started Tormentor when I was 15, and then I had to sing real, you know, and that time was the first time I tried also, you know, like go into this more black metal voice, but that was very new thing, you know. So that was basically Bathory who invented it, I think, and that was very inspiring. So I mean, the others also had this harsh voice, but this black metal voice was Bathory, and I tried to sing like that in my way also. But I guess all this matters, and talking about influences, because Tormentor was like a really troubled band. We had like, I don't know, at least 100 of shows, maybe more, you know, in those 80s. We had big crowd, like bigger than today sometimes. Like we had sometimes 1,000 people, you know, in some clubs, even more. I think the last show was like 2,500, but I was with a band called Necronomicon from Germany, but still. We were hated by the metal scene, so I said in the last interview too, is anyone is welcome to show me a good review from the 80s. Because there were reviews, but only bad. That we suck, or basically, of course, and also that this extreme metal, black metal, Satanism, what the fuck, metal should unite type of thing. But in the same time, you know, it was kind of like the downfall of punk and all the scene, that part of the 80s, because they were a little bit ahead. And people from that scene and even skinhead or whatever scene, they started to come to the shows just for the fuck up, you know? And I met with these people, and we started to share music, and they were super into all kind of music, and so it was kind of like opening then, at least in my circles. So I met my friend Jolt, who became later the Tormentor drummer, and I remember first we just went, he came to my place, took all my tapes, I went to his place, took all his tapes, and we started to copy each other's music. I don't know, and see you in a week, you know. And in this way, I got influenced and into bands like Karen 93, old shit, or Diamond the Gallas, or, I don't know, Skinny Puppy Frontline Assembly, or psychobilly bands like Meteors or Demented Argo. By the way, the vocals of Demented Argo, and anyone could check it out who likes like black metal, because the guys like Mark Phillips has like a fucking insanely cool voice, I think. And his approach also, well, it's psychobilly, but I was into these different scenes, and these things influenced my vocals, or at least in my mind, you know. And
when it comes to like vocals, black metal vocals, you were one of the first one doing black metal vocals.
Yeah.
So did it last like a long time to figure out right technique to do it? Did you lose your voice when you started to do the stuff you do nowadays?
It's interesting. In the beginning, yeah, it's a little bit hurted. And my ears, I remember, was fucked up. But we didn't have that big gear, actually, but still. But I think I'm really lucky naturally. And also, like, to think back now, it's my fate to have, like, been playing, like, sport, like hardcore. You know, we were, like, racing. And I was in a good team, and I was also pretty good. And so that, I think, made my lung also kind of ready. I grown up, like I started at age 8 and I did it until 18. When thanks to the music, I fell out. And I thank for that, because I'm much more happy to do this than to be a trainer in a swimming pool now, you know. So, yeah, these things. And to answer your question, yeah, it just naturally came, like, how can I, like, do this, you know, and then just crack my voice. But I didn't know shit then. I just experiment, and I was doing everything from my full power, and it's just luck for me, and I'm lucky I can tell, still knock on this wood, I never lost my voice, ever. And I perform sometimes very sick, because I didn't give a fuck. So, and still, it was okay. So, I mean, my voice can be cracked, but I never had this, I can't talk now, kind of shit. So, that's cool.
So, obviously your voice have developed quite a lot from the Tormentor days when it comes to, like, for example, Mayhem's De Mysteristum Satanas. So, were you, like, trying out a lot of new stuff, like, vocal-wise, before you head to the studio? Or how have you sort of shaped the voice that you have nowadays?
You know, after Tormentor, we just stopped, and I was disappointed in the scene. I wanted to try something else. So even we had, like, this kind of post-punk band, a little bit like Billy Idolish, in a way, a bit more extreme, but kind of like that shit. And I just tried, and I realized, fuck, I should. And that guy there, my friend, said that they knew a vocal teacher, so I went there just to see what's going on. And also I felt like I would need it. I felt uncomfortable, you know. So also just to try. And that was the first time. She was like an old opera singer, a woman, very nice, pretty in her age, but really cool, like, typical, you know. I've been to a few, at least another, and it's the same, these old costumes hanging, you know, like, it's fucking, it's a nice lady, you know. And anyway, she was the first one, told me about breathing techniques. I never heard, there was no internet or nothing. So I was like, what the fuck? And that's when she taught first me about this, you know, the diaphragm breathing, like you have to learn, in a way, imagine, learn how to take air, like, deep down. And yeah, and I remember in the first couple of lessons, she said, no, I don't want to hear your voice, we only do breathing. And when your breathing is okay, then I want to hear your voice. So that was cool, because there were some other girls who said, like, yeah, touch, you feel like she's like, I was like, fuck. Had to touch the ass, or I don't know, like, here, you know, like, because, yeah, you can feel, I can show you too, like, there are muscles, like, here, you don't use. We know how is the right breathing techniques according to them, what I heard, and I think I agree. When we cry when we are kids, we still have it. But through the time, and also because of the stress, and because of our body grows, and we don't need the voice, or I don't know why, we forget about it, and we don't use those muscles, which are, some people does, some people not. Let's put it in that way. It depends on how your life or your body shapes, and what happens or whatever. So I had to learn it, and then I started to use it and experiment with my voice. I never really told them what kind of music I play. So I was just more into, also the opera technique I liked, because I was thinking, it's good, that's where you get loud. It's not the most important to be loud, but that technique, that's why they talk like this, because it's no amplification, So it's like they had to have this technique always. It's like even the quiet part should be listenable. So even when you speak quiet, you still talk like this, like really. So it's one kind of technique, and I liked it. And I still believe classic technique is the basics. And I can inspire anyone to attend a teacher or check YouTube, because there is a lot of shit now. But the teacher is actually good because she can hear. So what you should do, if you don't have a teacher, record always your own lesson maybe and listen back or something like that. But this is the basics. And then it's a lot of things, which I don't know. You can ask a question to move forward, but or if you want me to talk more about these techniques, because that was just the basics.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah.
So, are there like some things that you do before the show, any kind of like warm-ups, or are you like the old school kind of guy that you just go on stage and open the voice like during the show?
I used to be like that back in the days. Didn't do anything, and then of course. When I learned about this stuff, and there was a period when I really practiced a lot of breathing, even not just before the show, but also before the show, warm up. And then there was a time I didn't give a fuck again, or it's not true, I gave, but I just didn't feel it was that necessary, and I could still do it. But an example, in the last tour, and also before I realized, but now we had like 11 weeks, of constant touring with Mayhem, like a 1 hour 40 minutes set, and we never did this long tour before, and I realized that after 1 month that we are still less than halfway. And I started to focus a little bit more on my health, and because I believe people should deserve every night the same experiment, and the same experience, doesn't matter. For us it's different. Sometimes they're a big stage, small stage, but luckily for me it's never been a problem. I like to approach in a spiritual way too, to the music we are playing. And so it's always a kind of ritual, so it always should be perfect, or the most I can bring out. But it's also about people that, for them, they bought the same ticket, they should deserve the same. And sometimes, the small clubs are. Okay.
So, are there like some foods or drinks that you would not like drink or eat before the show, that you know that it sort of affects your voice and vocal cords?
I don't like to eat 2-3 hours before the show. So my limit is I have to stop eating or finish eating 3 hours, 2 hours before the show. I don't like to have the full stomach straight after eating, and I don't even try it because I realized it was not good years ago. So I always schedule my food like that. And before the show, I like to drink some water for sure. Even depends on which show and stuff. To me, like on this long tour, the whole day, like, you know, in a tour, like the schedule, I wake up maybe at 2 o'clock when we are there with the bus in the afternoon. That's how we turn around a bit, or maybe 12, whatever. Then I go have a breakfast. Then we do a sound check. Then we have some more food, a few hours, and then the show. So for me, it's just a building up for that. And I don't, sometimes I don't even eat the second food. I put it after the show or whatever. Water is always crucial, and it depends. Maybe I have like a vodka soda. That's lately what I like, because the vodka is the purest alcohol. You make it long drink with a soda water, which is hydrating. And also I put a bit of lime, so it's good for your stomach. And it's drinkable. And I just have it. For instance, for Mayhem, I like to have a drink too. Just, yeah. But it's not necessary. Water is more crucial. And also on stage, sometimes it's important to keep your throat wet, you know, in singing. So, but if you drink too much before, then you're gonna sweat too much. So that's also, you have to find somehow, I don't know, the balance.
So when you did your like very first longer European tour, how was it with the vocals? Did you learn like anything new from it, or was it difficult to do like many shows in a row?
I learn every show. I learn every fucking time. Or maybe not learning anything new, I still learn. I'm still on, you know, it's never ending. I'm still working on my techniques. I'm still, I think to maintain, you have to still keep working on it, trying to push. So I hope that I can at least maintain it. So I make consequence every night, and I realized also, I can recommend you guys just make a recording of the show, and if you listen and just listen, not maybe the whole shit, maybe just the vocal parts or just some parts after the show, straight after, you know, or the same night, and then you can delete it. But you know, you can, because then you remember what you were doing, and you will remember, oh, fuck, this is sounded cool. So maybe you can recall what you were doing. Because here is the thing, what I learned, that it's very hard to teach vocals. I can teach you a lot of things still, actually, because it's a lot, luckily, it's a lot of words. However, on the other hand, there are no words for a lot of stuff, like these muscles, I can show you, like, or this, like they say, like it's imagination too many times, you know. So what I want to say, all our bodies are different, our body types. And also our history, like I was doing sport, maybe you didn't, so maybe it works different for you, you know. You, I don't know, you have to train maybe a little bit more that or less, or your body. And I'm telling you what you are asking every night, but every day now, I realized on this tour that less, I needed a fucking sound check, because actually even my own body, because now it was so long tour, I could really memorize what's going on. My whole body also looks different inside a little bit every day. Sometimes your throat is a bit more fucked up, you have to push a little bit there, or you just figure out. So at the sound check I always kind of tune my mind and my body for the day, and actually it works. And all these things, of course, like performing is like still maybe the Tormentor vocal performances were one of the best I ever did. So techniques are secondary. Of course, the most important, your spirit, your flame, your fucking channel, you open, you know. But when you got the techniques, it gives you more freedom and more security, you know, and you can just more make it even more sophisticated, you know. And my life philosophy anyway is learning. I couldn't find any meaning of this shit here. Just to learn for yourself, and who knows, maybe it will work somewhere, something. because everything else just going to hell, or everything will gonna just fade away anyway. So, but at least I think if you develop, you know, and learn and do whatever exercises or meditation or vocals, it's good to do it. And I like the traditional way, like you do it the rest of your life, and it's never perfect. So it's think about it, like we're talking about vocals now. What's happening in like real? My vocal cords probably this size is here. That's like a triangle, like close and up, like this actually. And there is a small, like a membrane, which makes this kind of hole, and the air goes through and do this. That makes, you know, it's this small thing that has no sound, basically. What happens is like with a guitar. When you do that string itself, it doesn't make sound, but if you put the body behind, suddenly you have an acoustic guitar. So the whole fucking thing happens in our body. So in this, when you look at the skull, these holes, you know, that's the resonance. Also here and also here. So, and you can combine. So now I'm resonant on that. It's like the tone, it doesn't change, and now I go up to the nose and go up. So it's like you find the balance, and you learn how to use, because also, I mean, when you play extreme, you really use your body, you know, and so you have to find the easiest way to do it for yourself. Then you have to press the less. You're gonna still press it, but that's the direction. So eventually you learn, like, separate your body, like, actually in my case, but then again, everybody's body is different, but these are main rules which I could share, but for hours. But actually, you use here this muscle, and up here you release basically everything should be, but it's so fine things you move, and you can move these resonances around. But you shouldn't care much about it, but just learn, you know, learn how it works, and in the same time to do extreme, you have to do a twist here, but still the rest should be in a release state. But again, it depends on the music, because if you want to be really aggressive, of course you have to use your muscles, but still in your mind somehow is the picture is that it's here is what you work, and here is still more released, you know. And
anything you want to say, like somebody who is like a new metal vocalist who is just about to start doing, are there like some things that you have discovered, some easy tricks to become better?
Yeah, I mean, start with the breathing, and start to use it in your music. You know, start to use straight what you learn. I mean, the easiest lay down. You just lay down, you know, like this, and fucking put not like this, but on your back, and put a book on your belly. It's the simplest exercise, and you just take breath, but your chest should not move, just the stomach, like, you know, and take the breath there and try to learn the breathing. But then it is so many. And then again, you can Google. There are great vocal teachers who are even in their intros, before you apply and pay one dime, they tell a lot of basic cool shit. Yeah, and practice and love music and love what you are doing, and don't give a fuck about what people think, because that's gonna limit your way of thinking. So it's not really a gamble, because if you are good, it's gonna be good. But anyway, it is, because there's so many great musicians and they're still fucking great. They some reason didn't make it, some others do. But if you wanna fucking play music to please the crowd, or the pop, then I think it's not my mindset, at least, you know. I always think like art should be more personal. It's not what people accept or want, or it's your personal message.